I have begun to be authentically who I am, and it's pushed away a large majority of people that see what I do as cringy. I mean, listen, I'm not a good dancer, and I know that, but I love to dance, and I've gotten better than when I started a year ago. But a lot of people see that and they're like, "Oh, that's cringy."
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the internet, where your cesspool is my jacuzzi. Yesterday, Clayton Echard gave a somewhat polarizing interview in which he was able to reach an audience much bigger than any audience he's had so far. The issue some people had with that is that the interview was given by Charlie Kirk, who's a controversial figure. This upset some people to the point that they said they would no longer support Clayton or they wouldn't listen to his story. I don't have anything that I want to say about Charlie Kirk. I decided several years ago to stop posting publicly talking about these kinds of things because it just got too toxic for me and it was not healthy, and I would rather keep that to myself. You might hear me clown on a politician every once in a while, but that's just me clowning on a politician. I'm not here to debate anything. I do think that Clayton should be able to tell his story however many times he wants to, and I'm not going to denounce him for taking control of his situation. So I decided to take Charlie Kirk out of it and just show some of the more important parts of the interview. I wanted to do this because I know it's the only way some people will listen to Clayton and what he had to say. I'm not going to show the whole thing because it is Charlie Kirk's interview. That was his work. It wouldn't be right for me to kind of erase him and then put the whole thing on my channel as my own. So we're just going to get little bits and pieces here because I think these were important takeaways from the interview when I did listen to it.
In this last year, I've been dealing with a false accusation from a woman that claims she was impregnated by me with twins. She never was pregnant. The whole thing was a lie. Has done this previously to 3 other men that we're aware of. She's been doing this for 8 years now, at least. And she claimed that she was impregnated with them by them with twins as well.
Clayton did a pretty good job summing up his story, given how much there is to it. Here he's just explaining more about her fraud and kind of summarizing what she did to fake these pregnancies.
How do we know that she's made all this up? Well, the doctors that she said that she has seen, all 7 of them came back, said they have no record of her. We did a paternity test at one point. That came back as little to no fetal DNA twice because she was never pregnant. And she also had sent me an ultrasound video at one point that she put online as well and was found 24 hours later by the Reddit audience online to be from a video from YouTube 6 years ago. So everything has went back to she's made this entire thing up. She's claimed that she was pregnant, which is a lie. She claimed she had a miscarriage, which is a lie. She's claimed with one of the previous victims that she had ovarian cancer. She's claimed she's been raped. She said that I did that as well after we have evidence and everything's been documented showing that she said what we did was consensual. But originally she came out and said that, yeah, she's pregnant, and she said, okay, so here's how it'll go. Either you date me for a week, and if it doesn't work out after a week, I'll have an abortion. And if you don't date me, then I'm having the child.
When I hear it all at once like that, it sounds even worse than it did before. Remember that the vast majority of people have never seen that insane dating contract she tried to force Clayton to sign in exchange for getting an abortion. As people start to trickle in and follow this story a little bit more, that's going to be something that blows people's minds. So
she has lied, and lied. We have a June 10th hearing coming up where we hope that justice will be served. We're real hoping that a ruling will be found that she lied. She probably won't admit it herself, but the judge hopefully will find that.
Here Clayton starts talking about how he was trying to deal with things privately, but then she kept threatening to go to the media, and she eventually did. He is asked if the media tried to analyze things and get to the truth before they published it.
No, it went straight to I'm guilty. Until proven innocent. I mean, she came out anonymously online through The Sun. They published an article. It got picked up right away by all these different, news sources, and they all ran with it. And people online said, this is exactly the kind of guy that we knew he was. He's a terrible human being. This tracks. And now, what does he have to say to this? And so I went right out on the defense. I said, I got to go back and combat this. So I went out online and said, none of this is true. And then it became, okay, then prove it. And so that was the reception that I faced when it first went public. As I went straight into defense mode, I was already guilty in the eyes of the majority.
Clayton brings up a good point there because a lot of people did have set opinions on him based on what they saw on TV when they watched him in The Bachelor. People can be really judgmental and unforgiving, especially when it comes to like parasocial relationships like this. Sometimes it almost feels like, especially with the internet where things can be anonymous, people decide that something has to be true based on the comments they're seeing. And then all of a sudden, if you try to rationalize and have like a decent discussion about why you disagree, you're getting trashed to oblivion.
I spoke with one of the publicists, and they said, listen, this might be one of the best things for you for this to go out publicly because all press is good press. I said, I don't want to deal with this. I've already went through enough. I've been struggling as is with my mental health. I was torn to shreds after the show. People didn't really like me. I was a polarizing bachelor. I said, I don't want this. When she went public, I got a message within 12 hours saying, hey, you're not the only guy. Go take a look at this court case. And they gave me a number. And I searched it in the system and I pulled it up and boom, same text messages. I mean, verbatim. This has been practiced over and over again. And so, at that point, though, then it was a matter of she was trying to destroy my reputation. And I couldn't go anywhere with her without her harassing me. She sent letters to my family. She sent letters to my place of employment. She sent emails to nonprofits. So I'm a mental health advocate, and at the time I was speaking around the country. I was talking to middle school, high school, college-age kids about just destigmatizing the conversations around mental health. She started reaching out to these nonprofits, these mental health organizations, saying, "Hey, this guy's not who you think he is. I am pregnant by his twins, and he won't even step up, and he doesn't care about my mental health, and he's letting me just deal with this on my own." So she started reaching out to all of them. I had a few of those opportunities pulled.
That's crazy. If you're emailing the organizations for his job prospects and you're saying, oh my God, he doesn't, care about my mental health, blah, blah, blah. Like, you're clearly just being vindictive.
And then she went after my relationships. I went to Miami to go see a friend and my cousin, and she ended up sending a parenting plan. She was trying to get papers served to me. And she was sending them to women that I had talked to in the past. Well, one of them that I had talked to, the other one I had mentioned on a podcast once. I said, hey, I would have interest in her. And she tried to serve papers to both of those individuals that were living in Miami. I mean, she just, wherever I went, she tried to smother me with, just with information.
That shit is scary. This man was just trying to get away from her, and she made it seem like he was the scary one.
There was a playbook to this. She's very calculated, and she doesn't work alone. Again, her mom's her accomplice. Her mom's complicit in this behavior.
Oh, is that right?
I'm spoken to her mom on the phone, or she's very aware of what she's doing. She's not after money. What she's after, in my opinion, is she's after validation from others. So she has a mental health podcast. So she basically takes these stories, spins them, becomes the victim, and then uses that for credibility. So she gets validation online and through her podcast, through saying, hey, I'm a victim of, prior domestic abuse, and I was formerly pregnant, and these men treated me terribly. She's done TED Talks, or one TED Talk on this matter with the previous victim. It's a complete lie, the entire TED Talk. But she uses this to be the victim when the reality is she's the aggressor.
TEDx just will not respond to anybody, evidently, when they try to point this out and say that she should be taken off of their platform. As recently as last night, people are picking apart the lies in that TEDx talk. There's some pretty convincing evidence that the photo she used in her TEDx talk, that she said was a photo of her injuries after being abused, was actually a photo that she had sent her alleged abuser a long time prior from when she was in the hospital for a completely different medical reason. This person has admitted to committing medical fraud.
We want justice to be served because it just hasn't happened yet. Now, granted, we have a really good shot at it. All of the motions that we have filed have been approved. All of her recent motions have been denied. I think we're in a really good position to have this referred, hopefully, to the DA.
Charlie Kirk does say that he would publicly and privately encourage the DA to prosecute her for her crimes. So that is a good thing for Clayton.
Did I make mistakes? Absolutely. I'm not trying to dodge any type of responsibility. I could have, not taken the actions that I did, but the reality is I did take actions, and here I am today. I believe that this is bigger than me, and I believe that this could potentially help other individuals. I've had a lot of men come forward, whether in private, and say, hey, this happened to me, or this happened to my friend. I've had women say this happened to my brother. It's more common than people realize, and I think the frustrating part is there's been pushback online. I think the reason why we haven't seen a lot of coverage is because I've seen people say, hey, listen, we don't want this to become a reverse Me Too movement. We don't want people to stop believing women. This isn't about believing women or not. This is a matter of believing victims. if this gets out and people are going to stop believing women, we don't want that. And so I've been called a men's rights activist, especially when I posted about, Trevor Bauer. I posted about his story and I got all these messages in my DMs. You're a men's rights activist. I'm like, I have no interest in trying to discredit women. I'm just trying to, credit victims. That's all it is.
How much would it suck to go through this and then have so many people say horrible things about you just because you don't cope or don't deal with it or try to take control of the situation in the way that they want you to?
Believe the truth and maybe reserve a little judgment to not make form opinions until all the facts are out. Because I got thrown to the wolves right out the gate. And that was tough to have to fight that uphill battle to prove my innocence when it should be, I think, the opposite scenario. I should, be innocent until proven guilty. I think there's a population of people that have a really hard time seeing me as a victim. I've read this all online. These are not my opinions. These are just the facts of the matter. I've had people online say, oh, look at him. He's a good-looking guy, former athlete. It's hard to feel bad for him. And the reality is, what hurts me is I wasn't, I used to be bullied. I used to be, a third of the size that I am now. I used to be friend zoned by every girl growing up. I didn't, the way that I appear is not the way that I see myself in the mirror. And so for people to discredit me and say, oh, boo-hoo, be quiet. You've got enough good things going for you. It's really hard for me to feel bad for you. It's like, well, now you're discrediting what I've went through and I feel silenced and I feel alone.
When people have been abused and are going through awful things like this, they're already thinking, this isn't fair. How could this person get away with this? How is this okay? Why is this happening to me? So, yeah, if people start saying, well, maybe you should just be quiet about it or stop dragging it out, stop milking it, that's going to make it 10 times worse. Who decided there was a point where they should get to say, he should move on. It's not that important to me, so he should move on.
And that's what I've seen online is I'm like, I feel hopeless. There's days where I felt hopeless because I'm like, why won't anyone just listen to me? Because it's the truth. I was told if the roles were reversed, that I, as the man, would have been arrested months ago. I was told by someone high up in the judicial system that if this was a female bachelorette and there was a man that was doing something like this, that this wouldn't have gone on for as long.
Here, Clayton is asked what advice he has for young people who are dating, which was kind of funny and a little bit random, but he does have some good things to say.
Be authentically you. Just be yourself. You'll attract ultimately the energy that you are. I think, when I went through this experience as the Bachelor, I didn't have full confidence and self-love in who I was. And so I went into that experience basically trying to please everyone, the producers, the audience, the women, myself. And you can't please all those people, but you can be yourself through it all while I wasn't. And so I created somewhat of a facade, this tough guy exterior, and it didn't pan out well for me. So I think, I started attracting a different audience that I didn't want around me because who I was, this creative human being that I've now am expressing outwardly, was suppressed. So the authentic, genuine people that wanted to be around me or were similar to me had no idea who I actually was. So my advice to people is be you. Will you get pushback? Absolutely. Have I gotten pushback for getting earrings? Yeah. Have I gotten pushback for dancing now? Yeah, absolutely. But am I attracting people that like that? Absolutely. And it feels really just awesome to see people that support the things that I genuinely love. I have begun to be authentically who I am, and it's pushed away a large majority of people that see what I do as cringy. Listen, I'm not a good dancer, and I know that, but I love to dance, and I've gotten better than when I started a year ago. But a lot of people see that and they're like, oh, that's cringy. So I've actually reduced my dating pool. I don't have to weed through all those individuals. They weren't going to be right for me anyways. At some point, if I would have not danced, they might have realized who I really was and not liked who I am. So I've actually limited the dating pool. So options are limited, but I don't have to weed through as many, people that don't like who I am. Now it's just like people that come around me do. This has finally caused me to have to come to terms with my reality, which is that I was living a life that was a lie my entire life, trying to impress people by building up an image that I thought people would, see, or I would get validation from. And I did throughout points in my life. When I became an NFL athlete briefly, I got all the validation in the world. Wow, that's super impressive. But then I stopped being an NFL athlete and I lost it all, and that void came back. I had no, so I tried to fill that validation again that I was seeking, and then I found it in The Bachelor. And then eventually I wasn't the shiny object anymore, and that void was there again. And I said, I'm so tired of having this void. What is it going to take for me to finally feel good enough? And it's when I realized, I was like, you have to choose to feel good enough. It's that simple. There's people that are still in your hometown that love their lives and love who they are. And they didn't have to do all those things you did to seek validation. They have that internal validation.
Clayton explains that whether or not he sues Laura Owens civilly will depend on the outcome of the June 10th hearing. So let's hope that goes in his favor so he doesn't have to have her in any part of his life for any longer than this.
Yeah, I mean, there needs to be some type of repercussions for these kind of actions. If she walks freely, what do you think she's going to do? She's going to feel indestructible. She's going to feel, invincible, and she's going to go out do it again. I mean, why would she stop? She did it as recently as me, and she's done it for the last 8 years. What makes you think she won't do it again? To support me, I really just want people to look into the story. I want people to talk about it. Just keep eyes on it, because again, I think accountability comes through visibility. It certainly doesn't hurt. So I want people to share this story, so that we're more likely to have accountability be had and justice to be served.